All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. This month, our theme has been STEM careers. We've been talking to scientists, explorers, and conservationists from all around the world and learning about their exciting STEM careers and the path they took to get there. For one of our final events this month, we're heading live to Lewa Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya. Lewa serves as a safe refuge for the critically endangered black rhino and the endangered gray zebra, as well as the elephant, lion, giraffe, wild dog, and other iconic wildlife species in Kenya. The conservancy is also home to more than 400 species of birds. Today, we're joined by Ephantus Mugu, Conservation Education Manager at Lewa, and Dr. David Kimiti, who is the Head of Research and Monitoring for Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. We're going to learn about some of the exciting STEM careers and conservation work taking place at the Conservancy. Ephantus, I'm going to throw it over to you. Looking forward to another exciting session. Take it away.
Welcome to the third episode from Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. My name is Ephantus Mugu, the Conservation Education Coordinator from Lewa Wildlife Conservancy in Kenya. Today we are privileged to discuss more about how to use STEM in the work that we do here in Lewa. And in the previous 3 episodes, we had an opportunity to cover the work that we do in Lewa. And the second episode, we were able to really discuss about lion monitoring work and data collection work, which we do here in Lewa. And this time in this broadcast, we'll be capturing more about how we really use technology in helping undertake our work in various aspects in the Conservancy. And joining us in the program today will be Dr. David Kimiti, who will be the Head of Research and monitoring in Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. So welcome Dr. David for this discussion which we are transmitting live from Kenya. Karibu.
Thank you, Ephantus, and thank you everybody for joining us for this discussion that careers in conservation and specifically on Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Just a little bit of background. Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, for those of you that have joined us for the last couple of sessions, we are a World Heritage Site and conservation area in Kenya, in north central Kenya. We cover an area of around 62,000 acres, and we manage our ecosystem together with 2 other conservation areas, that is Borana Conservancy and then Garandare Forest Trust. And we are primarily known for our conservation work with the gray zebra, lions, and elephants as well. And so that's a little bit of the background to give you an idea of the size of Lewa and how much work we are doing. STEM, for most of you will be aware, it refers to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In hand with each other. You tend to, even if you're an engineer, you'll still have to do math. You're technically still doing science and technology, so they're all related. They're not 4 separate themes or areas of expertise. To begin with, just in terms of mathematics, it's the easiest one to get out of the way, just because everything we do is underpinned by mathematics. If you think about it, everything from accounting to biology to chemistry, all our teachers, all of that is under mathematics goes through all of that, and we can't get away from it. If we think of STEM as a building, mathematics is the foundation for everything else that is coming on top. And so math is the easiest, and it's not going out of our way to say that almost every single career that you have available to you at Lewa is underpinned by mathematics. So that's very easy to talk about. When we talk about engineering, for example, as a discipline or a field, just because of the size of Lewa and all the activities we do, we need engineers on Lewa for us to be able to carry out most of the work that we do. Thinking about it in terms of logistics, anything we build in terms of infrastructure, we need civil engineers to be involved in that to help us with the planning and the execution of all of those construction services. If we think about anything that deals with logistics, so our ability to move from place to place, deploy rangers in various areas, all of that relies on engineering, and more so being able to fabricate things like vehicle. We just call them fabrication. So all the metal bodywork of our different vehicles, being able to maintain our generators, all of that is basically engineering. And we have over 200 vehicles that we service on Lewa, and so that just shows you how important engineers are to us. When we think about our fences, because we have an electric fence that we use to keep the wildlife in, because obviously where Lewa is, there's a lot of communities around us that are not necessarily wildlife communities, and so we need these to areas where there's compatible with areas that are compatible with wildlife. And so for designing, executing and maintaining these fences, we need electrical engineers to be able to do that, and we work with several of them to be able to maintain this infrastructure in terms of the fencing. So again, there we're looking at electrical engineers helping us with this particular tasks. And so engineering sort of undercuts our ability to build on Lewa, our ability to maintain infrastructure on Lewa. Anything that we decide to put in, we have to have civil engineers or works engineers being able to approve them and tell us that they're working. And so that we can't get away from. Anything that requires building, we need engineers. By technology, we are one of the most leading edge. We are at the cutting edge of science and technology innovation. When we think about security, our security operations, for example, we have various technologies that we are able to implement or utilize from our planes and our helicopters that we use for security work, as well as just surveys for our own conservation work. We rely on that technology being able to stay afloat, keep people where they are, and being able to oversee all the patrols that we do, and anytime there's any reports of any potential poaching or insecurity incidents, we rely on that technology to be able to deploy in a timely manner to be able to save animals and save human lives as well. And so in terms of security, in that sense, technology is pretty critical to that. Diving even further when it comes to security and technology, we were at the cutting edge, working with a company called Vulcan in the US. Vulcan is a company that was formed by a former Microsoft founder and Paul Allen, and what they were able to do is create this system called Earth Ranger that helps us visualize all our security assets, where all our elephants are in terms of the ones that have collars, which I'll talk about in a little bit, see where the different radio patrols are at the minute, and we're able, with the click of a button, being able to display that on a screen and being able to see where each of these individual assets is.
And so
from a security
perspective, that which was originally called the domain awareness system, which relies on internet connectivity, that was then transformed into a platform called Earth Ranger, which is now used by so many different conservation organizations across Africa. And it's basically a way for us to be able to use technology to tell us where different people are, to be able to respond to different cases and scenarios, and the technology helps us pinpoint exactly where we should go, and saves us resources. Instead of covering all the entire area that we could possibly be working in, we're able to focus specifically on where we need, and this platform Earth Ranger is what helps us do that. Underpinning that, like I said, I talked a little bit about communications. So technology is also involved in that. We work very closely, for example, with Safaricom. We have internet masts, network masts across Lewa that give us very good connectivity when it comes to communications experts to be able to come in and set that up and maintain those systems. And so that's another career line that our communication system is able to encourage. And not only that, not just in terms of networking in the field, but also high-speed internet for various teams. Systems, even being able to stream out to you. Obviously right now we have a group of very talented information technology specialists that are helping us get our message out to you right now, and so that's again another career that is pretty self evident when it comes to the resources that we are utilizing here. And so this underpins almost everything we do. We require that connectivity. Without that connectivity, we wouldn't be able to get information back and forth. And so IT, whether it's computers, whether it's radios, whether it's mobile phones, tablets, all of that needs connectivity, and therefore people to be able to take care of that technology. In IT and communications through that, and it's one of the sort of most direct and impactful programs we have in terms of reaching the wider community, and we're able to give back to the community through this, and that's one very key way in which technology helps us get our message across and get on with our work of improving livelihoods, because conservation isn't just about the wildlife, it's also about the people living with the wildlife, and this is one of the platforms we're able to use all the way from various tools available to us that we use. Some of our platforms are based on our mobile phones. So for example, tools like something we call Cyber Tracker, which is what allows us to collect information on our phones about where the animals are, how many animals have been sighted, and all of this information is brought into our phones using this particular app called Cyber Tracker. And it's not the only app we use on the phone. We also use apps like PlantNet, which is an app that allows us to identify plants just by taking a photo of them. So you're out in the field, you've seen a plant, you're not 100% sure which one it is. You take a photo, and this database that we have is able to narrow it down and tell you this is what I think the plant is. And so that's one of the ways we are using mobile phone connectivity. We also have a program called the Land Potential Knowledge System, which is activity for our work. In terms of, sometimes you can't be able to always check the animal in real time. Sometimes you don't know where the animal is. You might need to find it, and that's when we use something we call telemetry, which is just the ability to look for or find animals at a distance. And we have various ways of doing it. The easiest being just setting up, putting collars on animals, and these collars are special collars that send signals either through radio waves or through satellite imagery, and we're able to use this telemetry for guys in the field to be able to go out with these receivers and are able to pick up the signals of where the animals are, and again that helps us narrow down where we are searching these animals. Instead of having to get out every day and go out looking for each individual animal, we have a collar on one or two representative animals in the landscape, and we just go out with the telemetry equipment, just raise your receiver, and it's able to tell you which direction the animal is. Apart from that, also because the collars have GPS, we're able to map using the satellite platforms where these animals have gone, and that satellite data is fed both into Earth Ranger, which I talked about before, which is a platform that we're able to visualize with, but also common tools like Google Maps, as well as Google Earth, and ArcGIS, or Geographic Information Systems, which we use for mapping. So we're able to utilize this satellite data for that, and because of that you need people that are trained in Geographic Information Systems that can therefore be able to come and help us make sense of what the data is, make these maps, visualize them, because sometimes it's often much better to be able to look at a map and see where on a like a spreadsheet or something. So sometimes seeing that data on a map is much better, and we need Geographic Information System specialists to be able to come in and help us do that. So again, that's a very clear sort of use of STEM in our conservation work. Again, in the sort of same theme of not being able to always see the animals in the field, we also use camera traps, which is where we basically set up infrared cameras that are motion triggered. So when an animal walks in front of it, the camera triggers, takes a photo, and if we set up enough of those across the landscape, once or twice a month we collect that information. We're able to see which animals we have on our landscape that we might not be able to see. Often animals like lions, leopards, even anteaters, or some of these animals that are nocturnal, meaning they are mainly active at night, we wouldn't be able to see them during the day driving around, and we wouldn't be able to see them at night either because it's too dark. So setting up these camera trap systems allows us to see that, and therefore people that are trained in camera trap assessments and analysis are able to help us with our research work, and we're able to see more of that. And that all of sort of builds into our research program where we have data collection. And the reason we need all this data collection is because we want to know what changes are happening on the landscape, because we are responsible managers. Therefore we need to be able to see if our interventions, the things we are doing in the field, if they're having a positive or a negative impact on the landscape. We need to be able to know that, and our research team is what helps us do that. Also, any changes that might not be due to us, for example, if there's climate change, we need to be able to know that. We have rain gauges across the conservancy that we're able to collect, and someone has to bring all that data and analyze it, look over it, and see what information it's telling us. And so we need to have conservation conservation scientists, so biological scientists that are able to look through this data and make sense of it, and also synthesize and simplify it for management and be able to tell management, this is what's happening on the landscape, this is how it's changed, and this is what we think you should do moving forward to ensure either things stay the same or change. And so we have data collectors or researchers that are doing that work, and we're able to provide management with actionable information. And so that's one of the most direct STEM careers on our conservancy and conservation department, and currently we have a team of around 8 scientists that are working on this, and our general wider conservation team has 17 staff in total, and so that gives you an idea of how many people are actually working on this sort of data collection, and all of that wouldn't be possible without a career in STEM, specifically science. Another aspect of science is medicine, both human and animal medicine. In terms of wildlife medicine, we have vets that we have a vet that we have on site, and this vet is able to respond to the different injuries, especially for the endangered animals. Not every single animal is intervened on, but especially endangered animals, so that includes the black rhino, the gravy zebra. We are able to send our vet anytime we come across an animal that's injured, and he's able to treat it. He's also in charge of looking at diseases and seeing if there's any diseases on the landscape that we need to know about, and working with government, we can be able to catch them before they spread across too much of the conservancy. And so our veterinary is very important to us in terms of being able to keep the wildlife population healthy. In terms of human medicine, we have 4 clinics that we help run. Like I said in the beginning, wildlife conservation isn't just about the wildlife, it's also about the people, and the people that live in this area benefit from Lewa's existence by having these hospitals around. And these hospitals employ so many people that are in the STEM fields, primarily doctors. So we have doctors in each of these clinics who are in charge of treating patients, seeing patients, and basically diagnosing what problems are ailing them and being able to treat them. So we have a very dedicated team of doctors. These doctors wouldn't be able to work without their nurses, and so we also have a very large proportion of number of nurses helping them with their different clinical work, and we're able to hire them through the conservancy itself. Additionally, we also have pharmacists, so people that are able to give out medicine to the people that are sick after the doctors have seen them and diagnosed them. We have pharmacists that are able to participate in this particular side of Lewa, the health side of Lewa. We also have lab technicians, obviously, that are doing the testing for these various illnesses. They collect blood and other things from people that are sick, and are able to look through microscopes and run these different tests and figure out exactly what is wrong with the people that have come to see the doctors in the clinics. And so all these guys work together to provide healthcare services to the various communities around Lewa. And so that's again a very direct involvement of the STEM, very direct example of a career in STEM that is being done on Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. And so in general, like I said, there's so many different STEM careers across the conservancy, all the way from accountants, from researchers, IT specialists, so the different technologists, aeronautic engineering, so our pilots, the guys that and girls that maintain those aircraft. They are also trained in STEM fields. Civil engineers that help us with our construction and infrastructure work. Electrical engineers that help us with our fencing work. Statisticians, or people that are really good in math, basically, that help us with all our research work. We wouldn't be able to make sense of it one way or another without them. And then obviously our research team and conservation team that then synthesizes all this information and is able to tell us whether the wildlife is healthy and exactly what we should be doing in terms of management. So all these various careers in STEM are available on our landscape, conservation landscape, and we hope to continue encouraging the development of these careers in both in our country and abroad, because all of that is extremely important for our work as conservationists. So with that, I would like to open up if there's any questions that you guys would like to ask, and then we can see how we can answer them. Thank you.
Has the plant ID software ever helped find a new species?
New species, no, but rare species, yes. We're able to find a couple of species that we didn't know we had on Lewa. They haven't been recorded in this landscape before. Actually, hadn't been recorded east of the Rift Valley, which is where we are, and so we're able to find that. Also, we're able to find species that should not be here that we didn't know were here. So what we call invasive species. The PlantNet app has really helped us be able to tackle that problem.
Next question, can you tell from tracking info if an animal is sick or hurt?
In a lot of instances, yes, especially with elephants and lions. Like I said, we have collars on specific animals, and most of these collars have something inbuilt called an immobility alarm, which is basically if an animal hasn't moved for a long time, then it sends out an alarm, and we're able to use our software to see where that animal is, and then we can go and check whether this animal is just asleep or something has happened to it. Maybe it's moving slowly, hasn't moved out of its area in a long time. And so yes, these collars help us tell if an animal hasn't been moving as much as it should be moving, and we're able to send our vet there to go and see what exactly the issue is.
Do you have vets on staff? What kinds of calls in the field do they respond to the most?
Interesting. So yeah, like I mentioned, we do have a vet. This vet is employed by the Kenya Wildlife Service. He's trained in wildlife, diseases and treatment. The most common responses are usually as a result of fights between territorial rhinos. So rhinos, when they fight each other, they'll bleed, they'll cut each other, and our vet will be able to go and respond to that. Also, a lot of times we find a lot of gravy zebra, which are really sort of strong fighters. They will fight off attacks by lions and other predators, but they'll be left with cuts and marks and scars, and the vet will be called in to deal with that. And then finally, just diseases. If there's animals that seem sick or haven't been moving around, our vet is able to collect samples from them, send them to the lab, and we are able to look at that. We are actually in the process of finishing construction of the Northern Kenya Veterinary Diagnostics Lab, which is going to help not just Lewa now, but most of Northern Kenya with state-of-the-art, disease ecology and lab assessments.
Okay, next question. Have any animals removed or damaged their collars?
Yes. Especially hyenas are very good at chewing collars off, because the collars are generally made of a leather material. So hyenas are very good at chewing the collars off, and so we have to keep redesigning the collars. Most animals, though, when the vet puts the collar on, it's pretty decently put on there. Right now we're exploring the use of what we call drop-off collars, which are collars that if the life of the collar dies, instead of having the vet put down the animal to take the collar off, the collar will automatically drop itself off. And sometimes we've had animals accidentally trigger that mechanism before the collar life has ended. And so it's rare, but it happens.
How can the community benefit from the cell internet connectivity at the Conservancy?
Well, that's pretty straightforward, because the cell tower we have covers a massive area, the entire of the Conservancy, as you can imagine, and so the communities that live right next to us obviously have also very strong 4G connectivity because of that. And so it's something that they're already benefiting even right now just from having that cell mast there. They're able to receive signal directly from us. So yeah, it's a win-win for us and them as well. And yeah, they're able to carry out all the internet work and everything they need that requires internet connectivity. They're able to retrieve from the Lewa mast set up by Safaricom.
Okay, next question. How many camera traps are used? What's the most exciting thing captured by a camera trap?
Interesting. So we have several different camera traps. So we have, like I said, Lewa is first, but we have specific gaps that we let animals through. And so we have 5 camera traps set up on those areas. And then we have camera traps that we use for our own internal research. So if we want to find out if animals are using a specific area, we also set them up. So in total, we have around 20 camera traps, but they're not always deployed at the same time. If we need more camera traps for any specific research, we usually get other researchers that have camera traps to come and help us with that. In terms of the most exciting things caught by camera traps, I think the small carnivores that are very nocturnal are usually the most intriguing to see, because we generally don't get to see them, and anteaters, and aardvarks, just because we never see those animals in the flesh. And sometimes we'll find a lion coming from the community or elsewhere, coming through one of our gaps and camera traps. So that's always exciting to see a predator using those gaps captured on the camera trap.
Okay, thank you. Next questions. Do people from Lewa, such as yourselves, train others in STEM careers at other parks or reserves?
Yes, and that's a very good question, and that's actually a very big part of what we do as Lewa. One of our the parts of our strategic plan is thought leadership and sharing, and so we invite people from all over Kenya to be able to come and see the work we're doing, especially with technology. So we've hosted various delegations from not just Kenya but across Africa. Even last year we had some groups from Tanzania, a group from Cameroon coming to see how we're doing things here. So in terms of teaching other people our technology, we are doing that. In terms of locally, for example, we've pioneered the use of hair analysis to be able to see what prey is eating by looking at the scat, and so we've also been training people from across Kenya to be able to come and do that. In addition to that, we have an internship and attachment program where we have students coming from university to learn with us, and we also have international universities coming to work with us. Southampton University in England, Princeton University in the US, Columbia University have all been here, and then the Kenyan universities, Nairobi University, Kenyatta University, have sent students here to come learn with us and learn from us and us from them.
Next one, if you could have a new technology to use at Lewa, what would it be?
A new technology to use at Lewa. Well, I think right now one of the things we're thinking about, one of the things we're trying to explore how we can do is something called the LoRa network, which is basically a radio frequency network across the conservancy that would be able to tell us, for example, if an elephant is going into a community area, if a particular rhino is going out of its territory and into areas where it shouldn't be. So I think just sort of connectivity in terms of radio frequencies that would allow us to map the entire conservancy is something we'd be very curious in, and we are actually working with entities like National Geographic to pioneer some of those systems that are being used in other places. Drones also would be something we'd be very curious to use from a research perspective, just to be able to, for example, instead of having to pay for high quality satellite images, be able to take vegetation images in real time and stream them to our systems, and even use them for counting animals, for example. And so again, these are things that we've thought about and have talked about with our various partners, and we're working on them, and hopefully in the next few years we'll be able to say that we've also pioneered the use of those systems as well.
Thank you, David. Next one is about yourself. What did you study in school, David, and what inspired you to work in conservation?
Okay. So yes, I have a PhD in range science from New Mexico State University in the US. My journey into research and the specific career I'm in was almost accidental, in the sense that when I went to high school, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I was good at science. And so I got picked for a course in rangeland management, which at the time I had no idea what that was. But I went there, showed up, and the first class was an introduction to wildlife management, and I knew that's exactly what I was going to do with myself. and from there just got interested in elephants, did my master's studying elephants and woody vegetation, and then from there looking at the factors that influence elephant movements, which led me to vegetation distribution and soils, and that eventually led me to restoration, which is what I ended up specializing in for my PhD. I did restoration ecology as a specialization for my range science class. So a lot of inspiration was wildlife. Be out in the wild and see wildlife, and visiting Impala Research Center was a big thing for me, because it helped me see that a career in science in wildlife management was a possibility, and that sort of is what brought me where I am today. So I'm very grateful for all those experiences.
All right. Can you give us some examples of invasive species in Lewa?
So there's a few invasive species. There's one called Lantana camara, which is a species that's very thorny and sort of grows as a thick bush. We also have a few other species like Opuntia, the prickly pear. There's not a lot of it, but there's enough of it that we have to monitor it. And then there's the Solanum species, which are different species of I think in some places they're called the Sodom's apple, and the Tura stramonium, which is also another species that we monitor for. Those are probably the most common ones, although we are very lucky that we don't have a massive problem with invasive species on the conservancy, just small pockets of them.
And perhaps to wind up, how has COVID impacted STEM careers conservation at Lewa?
COVID has obviously impacted us by us not being able to financially sustain a lot of our programs. A lot of our research programs are very cutting edge, very we not necessarily consider them completely essential in terms of they have to be done, and so we had to pause the non-essential ones, which from a research perspective are usually the most interesting ones. So we had to do that. We also had to stop taking interns, which really impacted our ability to carry out some data collection programs and work that we were doing. So we are now starting to be able to restart that work again, and so hopefully in a few months we'll be able to carry on completely. Cool. Thank you for all your questions and your attention, and I'd like to hand over back to Joe to wrap up, and hopefully I'll see you guys again. Thank you.
Huge shout out to our classrooms tuning in live and afterwards via YouTube. Thanks for sending in some great questions today. Of course, thank you to Aphantis and David for an awesome event and for showcasing STEM careers in conservation and the excellent work that takes place day in and day out at the Conservancy. One last shout out to the crew behind the scenes for making this event possible and for another fun broadcast. Don't forget to tune in all February long as we celebrate women in science and exploration. Check out the events at exploringbytheseat.com. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we look forward to our next trip to Lewa. Thanks, everyone.